Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We are glad that you have chosen to spend your afternoon with us. My name is Alexis Foley. I am an educational program coordinator with ACUHO-I. And this webinar is brought to you in collaboration with our ACUHO-I Sustainability Network. So this session is going to explore strategies for managing residence hall move-out processes, including donation and reuse initiatives, campus partnerships, waste reduction efforts, student engagement, and operational planning. So we'll begin with a showcase of some sustainability initiatives, followed by a Q&A/discussion highlighting lessons from our presenters, trends that they're seeing, and then some best practices for developing impactful move-out programs on your campus. Alrighty, so today's session is being recorded. It will be available on the ACUHO-I YouTube channel following the session. We'll conclude with a few brief announcements about upcoming opportunities. Alrighty, so with that, I'm going to pass it to our first presenter today, Olivia from Miami University.
Perfect. Let me share my slides that I have prepared about ShareFest, which is Miami University's Move Out donation program. And I am Miami's Director of Sustainability in the Physical Facilities Department. So I'm our physical facilities liaison for the program, but we work across the campus. So if you're not familiar at all with Miami of Ohio, we have 46 residence halls on our campus with just over 8,000 beds. We have a first and second year live on requirement. And I think this picture that I added to the slide gives you a good idea. This is one of our larger residential quads on the campus. So not very tall buildings, fairly well spread out, with large lawns in between, which makes picking up move out donations an interesting challenge. And then most of our off-campus undergraduates live in what we refer to as the Mile Square, which is a residential neighborhood right up against the campus that is almost all rental homes that are commonly leased by our students. So we're fairly condensed for an undergraduate population of around 17,000. This was ShareFest's 21st year. So last year was a big 20th anniversary for us that we were really excited to celebrate, but 21st year this year. And the actual event only runs for 6 days per year. So we are a registered 501c3 nonprofit that kind of stems from our founding of ShareFest. It was not initiated by the campus, but actually by the faith community in Oxford. So a group of churches got together, saw how much waste was going out to the curbs, reached out to the university and said, how could we support you in diverting some of this waste? And now it has been really adopted by the campus and we're much more involved. But I like to give some of that context. Like, would you necessarily need to create a whole 501c3 if it was initially housed on your campus? Maybe not. But since we started as a community organization, that's part of our origin. So the drop-off event, which you'll see in a couple of photos, runs from the Thursday of finals week through the Tuesday after graduation, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., all 6 of those days. But we start collecting in the residence halls a couple of days before that. So the Monday of finals week is when we begin residence hall collection. And that picture on the right is our director of residence life dropping something off in the ShareFest hall lobby collection point. So we send all of these 11 by 7s to the residence directors. They get a notice about a month in advance, and we ask them to start setting aside boxes that they see in the trash rooms to put back out for ShareFest. And then they just set up a spot that they feel is out of the way in their lobby. What we collect has changed a little bit year to year, depending on who our recipient organizations have been. But generally speaking, we collect toiletries, cleaning supplies, appliances, furniture, decor. We just for the last few years, a new addition has been mattresses and foam bed pads. We collect clothing and then any non-perishable food and drinks. And I also wanted to make sure I mentioned that we offer free community e-waste recycling during ShareFest because we realized we were having so many students show up with a broken TV, a broken printer, things that they knew they really shouldn't put in the dumpster, but they weren't sure what to do with it. So having e-waste recycling on site has been really helpful for us in running this event. So I mentioned our beneficiaries. Any registered nonprofit can sign up to receive goods from ShareFest. We consider ourselves a pass-through organization. So since we only exist 6 days of the year, we don't keep anything at the end of ShareFest. So we have two groups that we refer to for our beneficiaries. Our primary beneficiaries, which are large organizations that are supplying something in addition to receiving goods that makes ShareFest happen. So for us, that's the Goodwill of Greater Cincinnati. They provide between 7 and 10 semi-trailers every year for the event, and that's what we use for storage throughout ShareFest. The Talawanda Oxford Pantry and Social Services, which I'll refer to as TOPS for the rest of the presentation, they receive food primarily, but some household goods for their recipients, and then another local food pantry, Open Hands Pantry. And then we also solicit every year micro recipient groups. These are the ones that are more likely to change on a year-to-year basis. So these were the 2026 micro recipient groups. The Miami International Student Center collects kitchenware for international students who might be coming from abroad and not have things to furnish their apartments. The Butler County Success Program is personally probably my favorite group to get to work with. They represent social workers from 7 local school districts. They provide us with what we refer to as pick lists. So before the event, they send us a list of things that we need, and then we set them aside in our beneficiary trailer for the days when the social workers are able to come receive goods. But lots of social workers in our community have gone out to do home visits, and they find that kids in our community don't have a bed. They're storing their clothes in trash bags. They don't have dressers. So mattresses and dressers to organize kids' clothes are two of the most common items that the social workers deliver to the kids in their care. Another really cool story coming out of ShareFest for us, Parkview Arms is a low-income housing community here in Oxford. Their residents wanted to start receiving goods from ShareFest, so they worked with a retired Miami professor who happens to also be our former mayor. They formed an official residence council, gained their 501(c)(3) status to be able to receive goods from ShareFest. So every fan and every portable air conditioner that comes to ShareFest finds its way to Parkview Arms to those residents. Hype is a student organization that was new to ShareFest this year. They refurbish computers, tablets, and cell phones to give out to members of our community who are lacking access to technology. So they got first dibs on anything that was donated for e-waste recycling. And if those computer science students told me, I'm pretty sure I can refurbish that, I said, cool, you take that. And we won't send it for recycling if it can have future use. And then 3 new small micro recipient groups, which I think are pretty good examples of people that come and go over the years. For us this year were the Shelter, Sojourner's House, and Serve City. Those are all homeless shelters within our community, and they all had really specific things they needed this year. So the shelter was expanding from 12 to 45 beds this summer. They wanted a dresser to put at the foot of every bed. So we collected 30 dressers. That's all that they took. Sojourner's House only wanted mattress pads. They wanted to put pads on top of the beds they already had in their shelter to make them a little more comfortable for their guests. So we just collected the amount of mattress pads that they wanted and provided those. Serve City, similarly, their beds in their homeless shelter didn't have headboards, so they requested 50 twin-size headboards, again, just to make their shelter a little bit more homey for folks. So last year, we worked with several summer camps who came and each collected between 100 and 200 foam mattress pads. They didn't come back this year because every bed in their summer camp has a foam pad. They don't need them. So there is a little bit of a challenge of finding new micro recipient groups every year because if you meet their need, these goods last for several years. They're not going to come back every year and need 50 new headboards. But we try to keep an ongoing relationship with them so that when the time does come, they might need more materials. They know how to get back in touch with us and they know those items are still available. So I'm going to show you weights from last year because we are actually having our debrief meeting where everybody brings us their weight report tomorrow afternoon. So this is looking at last year's numbers. But we diverted 95 tons of materials from the landfill in that 6 days of last year. Goodwill of Greater Cincinnati received the most material. They received about 70 tons, which filled 9 53-foot semi-trailers floor to ceiling. And then our food pantry, the local one, took about 4,000 pounds of food and another 4,000 pounds of household materials. Open Hands Food Pantry took 12 tons of food and then 200 mattress pads, which they used to make outreach kits for the homeless in our community. The Butler County Success Program took about 3,000 pounds of goods, and so did Parkview Arms. So I am eagerly waiting for tomorrow afternoon to see how this year's numbers compare to last year's. I wanted to talk a little bit about advertising because I know it's really challenging, especially during move out, to get students' attention. They are really busy taking their finals. It also is why we have such a challenge soliciting volunteers for this event. There's like no worse time on earth on a college campus than finals week and the week after. Faculty are trying to get their grades in, students are taking tests and graduating and moving home. But we do a lot of advertising and we try to capitalize on existing campus events. So all of these ladies who are sitting on the floor with our residence director in that picture on the top right are participating in our annual Greek Day of Service. That happens 4 weeks before ShareFest. We used to think it was too early to start advertising. We have learned when you have available human labor, you just take advantage of it, even if the timing doesn't feel quite perfect. And what those ladies did for us was distribute these handouts that you see in the picture on the left. So they were each assigned an off-campus neighborhood in the community. They're given door tags for every door in those neighborhoods, and they knock on every off-campus resident's door and leave them a door tag that says, "We want your usable goods after move out." It has the directions with a little map to exactly where the parking lot is, where we will be sitting waiting to unload their goods. And that has been, I think, the highest impact, lowest cost initiative. We've got the student labor already lined up. Let's have them knock doors. We also run a website. We post really prevalently in the parent Facebook groups. We find the parent Facebook groups for each class are a really good place to make people aware of what's going on with ShareFest. All of our local student newspaper, community newspaper, everybody publishes about it. Hall signage is definitely the best way we get in touch with on-campus students. So on their checkout door tag that's on every door, it says "Donate to ShareFest" in the collection in the lobby. And then you saw kind of on my first slide what that lobby spot is very visible. And most days of move out, by the end of the day, it's piled to the ceiling. So it's hard to miss the giant pile of ShareFest stuff as you're trying to move out. We also this year did yard signs at all of our commencement sites. So this sign down in the bottom right corner was exactly what was on the yard signs. And you'll notice everything ever that we print on ShareFest, we always say Thursday of finals week through Tuesday after graduation. We never put dates on things because we are a very low cost operation. It's really nice for us to have everything be perennial. And then we've also put up some banners in the student center, and we ask every student organization who's willing to post on their social pages. So, hey, members of X Club, make sure you're donating to ShareFest during move out. The last couple of things are mostly just photo-based, and then I had something to share. We've instituted morning stand-up meetings every morning of ShareFest. This is way easier for us than trying to put something together in advance. We get all of our volunteers together at 9 o'clock in the parking lot, so you can see these trailers that I was talking about that Goodwill provides for us to store goods. We assign the residence halls that our volunteers are going out to empty out those collection sites. and just kind of recap anything we learned from the day before. They are also showing off our little ShareFest lanyards. So we have laminated ShareFest lanyards for every volunteer, just so it's clear when they're in and out of the residence halls why they're there. And then some of them are also holding bright yellow signs that we have them stick in their dashboard so that when campus police are circling around, trying to direct folks, they know that the ShareFest volunteers are with us and that they're trying to get to a certain area of each of the residence halls. So that was way easier than when we tried to feel like we were being more organized in the past. It turns out just getting everybody together in person and sharing it out loud is logistically easier and received a little bit better than trying to like send out a daily email that not everybody might read. I just wanted to share a couple of photos from the event. So this trailer over here is our recipient trailer. That means anything that goes in there is up for grabs from all of our micro beneficiary groups. You typically come once a day and kind of shop that trailer for anything that their residents might need. And then the other trailers are closed to just Goodwill. So that we found also makes things logistically easier. Once it gets loaded up by Goodwill, it can end up getting stacked really tall. We don't want to unbury things. If a recipient comes and goes, actually, I really wanted that dresser, it has to go on the beneficiary trailer for it to end up with our beneficiaries. And then this was just an example of what we collected one day for Serve City, the headboards and the foam mattress pads that they wanted for the homeless shelter. We've also learned the don't load and unload things twice in one day. If somebody's coming to pick it up this afternoon, it's sitting in the parking lot. I'm not putting it on that trailer just to take it right back off of that trailer. And then a thank you from ShareFest for letting us get the word out about this event. It's been really, really impactful. It stocks our local food pantry for them for the entire summer. It's done a lot of good with all of our micro beneficiary groups. So I will be happy to answer any questions after Mary's presentation. Let me stop my share.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Olivia. So next we will have Mary from Colorado State presenting.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, happy lunchtime, wherever you're joining us from. I appreciate you all coming in and listening to a few of us talk about our move out program. So I'm notoriously poor at talking and working at the same time. So give me 1 second as I try to navigate some of this. Do you all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, hello everyone. My name is Mary Liang. I use she, hers pronouns. And as Alexa said, I'm from Colorado State University, and I'm here to talk about our move out programs. So a little bit of background of CSU, in case folks don't know, we are located in Fort Collins, Colorado, so it's North Colorado. I am primarily housed in housing and dining services, so I work primarily with folks that live with us on campus and folks that eat with us, whether you're a guest or whether you're a resident on campus. We have a first year live on requirement. So all students that are in their first year at CSU have to live with us on campus, which is about 6,000 residents. They live in 12 of our residence halls. I can't tell you what the square footage is because I can't think of that on top of my head, but we have 12 residence hall, one single student apartment complex, so apartments for second years and forward, and then we have 3 graduate and family housing apartments. So I'll try not to compare and contrast between what I said and what Olivia said, but our finals week is Monday through Thursday, and with commencement on Friday. So we try to truncate our move out process in the first 2/3 of the week in preparation to get everyone out as much as possible before graduation because it all happens within the same campus. It gets a little bit chaotic. So that is our goal, is to try to do it from Monday through Thursday, so 4 full days. And these are the dates from this year, the 11th through the 16th, which was last month. So the first program I wanted to talk about as it relates to our move out week or our swap it program. So this is our first year doing such a program. So it took place on Monday evening where all of our residence halls and student apartments had a synchronous program where there was space in the lobby where students, residents can drop things off and other residents can pick things up. They were in public indoor spaces, so mostly lobbies, some kitchen areas, so areas that anyone can enter essentially. It wasn't within a specific classroom or anything of that nature. The way we staffed these swap programs were from RAs from each hall. So RAs were told to staff these programs for the hour to take 1 hour shifts to say, hey, I want you to be there to collect usable items and reject not usable items. We found that having someone staffed at these programs were key because otherwise it would become a dumping ground for folks. In the past, we've gotten wet towels, broken TVs, anything under the sun. People will try to essentially pawn off to us. So having these RAs in these spaces allow us to say, "Hey, we'll take that. Thank you very much," or "No, thank you. That really belongs in the dumpster. That really belongs in our e-waste recycling area." It was a way to connect people to where the specific items were. We provided those RAs with a guide of do's and don'ts. So essentially what I said in terms of what we take and what we don't take. And then on Tuesday, the following day, we had one donation partner, so one nonprofit from the local community come and take items from every single one of our locations, so 13 locations at all. Let me try to move this a second. So on the right-hand side is a quick snippet of what our poster looked like. So we call it a swap it program, leave something or take something. We really encouraged people to take anything they wanted to take. So one of the pluses that came out of this event, which I thought was quite funny, was that we had a traveling group of students who literally went from one residence hall to the next, to the next, to the next, kind of just to browse. They shopped around all of the residence hall, which was amazing because each hall had something different, right? So we told people that they could take anything they wanted. You didn't have to bring something to take something. And at the end of that one day for 5 hours, this was a trailer of what that one donation partner received on Tuesday. So it was a hodgepodge of stuff. We had some futons. We have a lot of those plastic containers, I'm sure is no surprise to folks. And just a smattering of other things. And the purpose of these events is to kind of reduce the amount of donation things that we receive at the end of the year. Take something, leave something, take something was the premise of our swap programs. Let's see. Nope. At the latter end of our week, we have our donate programs. So on the donate programs are Wednesdays to Fridays, 10 to 4. All of our students had to move out on Friday at 10 a.m. So we actually had a shortened Friday. So Wednesday and Thursday were our big hit days. We identified 9 parking lots around our campus and 5 external donation partners. So the 5 external donation partners are folks like the Goodwill. We worked with our Goodwill in Fort Collins. We worked with some other smaller organizations, nonprofits, to collect things that service their community. So similar to what Olivia said, we had specific communities that said, "Hey, we're interested in clothing and everything else, but we'll help you sort through those things and distribute that elsewhere." Some of our internal partners, I didn't want to set them aside, was our food pantry for non-perishables. So students have all sorts of ramen in their rooms. We collect everything and everything that's non-perishable. We donate that to our local pantry and then our surplus store for any e-waste recycling. Because as Olivia said, and as one of these pictures mentioned or shown, people have lots of refrigerators, mini fridges, things like that they can't use or need to donate. Our partners provide the vehicles. That was one big change from previously. Previously, CSU would offer some of these vehicles to collect and store goods. Now we ask our partners come up with vehicles themselves. Larger organizations such as Goodwill, it's easy for them. Some of our smaller organizations have trouble finding vehicles and they've been creative. We actually this year had someone come with a horse trailer. That was the only way that they had space to collect items was from a trailer from the horses. So I thought that was pretty neat. We offer the staffing, so we solicit volunteers to say, hey, can you be at these trucks, these locations to collect things that are in good shape? They do a preliminary check of the items to make sure they're not broken, they're not super dirty. And then the partners themselves do all of the big sorting. So they will do all of the things to say, like, hey, I only want clothing. I'll take the clothing and distribute everything else on my own. So CSU doesn't do much of that sorting on our end. So the communications, as Olivia said, can be a little tricky. So I also wanted to include a slide of what our communication looks like. So on the left here is a poster of what our donation portion of the week looks like. So we try to include as few words as possible, but essentially the main logistics that people need to know, and then some icons of what we take and what we don't take. So you pretty standard household goods, clothing, furniture, linens are things that we do take. We don't take dirty things, broken things, and medications. Finally, we included a map on our signs because not every single residence hall has a donation location, has a donation partner. So we try to indicate where people can go to if they have goods to donate. Some of our communications that this poster goes out to are all emails. We give an email out to all our residents during what the move out process looks like. We print posters for all of our buildings. We have digital signage. So all of our residence hall has TV screens that we put some of this information on. We do a big social media push. And then finally, we have these printed out and posted on A-frames or sandwich boards. I don't know what you all call it. But we put them next to our dumpsters to say, like, hey, stop, don't throw it away, look for your nearest donation station. Finally, I wanted to do a quick snapshot of what we thought were trends this year. Our Swap It programs were a big hit. This is our first year doing it. We collected a full trailer of things. So we're going to continue doing that. Throughout the years, our donations are better quality. So I think that's a plus. People are buying more quality things. And as a result, are donating more quality things. We used to get a lot of fast fashion, but nowadays people are donating better quality things. So I think that's a feedback our partners have given us that they want to continue working with us because they're better quality things. Some of our niche items continue to be difficult, so maybe Olivia, I will talk to you at a later time, but our e-waste, our mattress toppers, and our non-perishable foods are hard to get people to understand, like, what is a non-perishable food, even though it seems pretty obvious, but some people will just give us a random thing. I can't even think of it off the top of my head. Um, Mattress toppers is another difficult one because none of our partners take mattress toppers. Every single one of our residents seem to have a mattress topper. So unfortunately, we chuck 6,000 foam mattress toppers into our dumpsters every year. Electronic waste is also tricky because people wish cycle. They think that, oh, we think this should work. It's just smashed on the screen, but the screen still works. So we get a lot of those too. So it's those niche items continue to be difficult. And then finally, the last bullet here is our students are starting a thrift shop on campus. So we're trying to see if we can kind of incorporate some of the clothes that are donated from these donation programs into a student thrift shop that is in our student center in upcoming years. Finally, some of the best practices I've seen while working at CSU is we receive our donation outdoors because it's really tricky to get indoor locations outdoors. It becomes too unwieldy. Our lobby spaces aren't very big. And when people are moving out, they're moving out in large gray bins, right? So it's just tricky to find spaces. So we found that doing donations outdoors is the best. Staff donation areas whenever possible. So have a volunteer there. It reduces people just dumping everything into donation areas, and it provides a human interaction. People like to know where their donations go to. We try to standardize donations across all partners, so we avoid this truck is clothes only, this truck is bedding only, just because it's really tricky for students to understand. Like, this hall is only going to take bedding, this hall is only going to take clothes, this hall is only going to take furniture. It's just easier if we just take everything from everybody and have the partners figure them out themselves. We don't allow shopping inside of our trucks. I could explain that a little bit more if someone has a question about that, but once things go inside the truck, they stay inside the truck. It's not a two-way road for us, and it just cuts down on a lot of policy grayness. And then finally, metrics are challenging. A lot of this is estimated, and I'm also waiting for some weights from our Goodwill and some of our local partners by the end of the week. But it is challenging because a lot of times we just take, and people just give, and it's tricky to get a weight after all of that. So while we try to kind of estimate what we collect, it can be tricky to say this is the impact we've made, even though visually we know the impact that we've made based on the number of trailers we've filled up. So that was a quick blip of what our move out program will be. This is Cam the Ram. This is our mascot, but happy to answer any more questions as our Q&A starts in a little bit.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mary. That those are both of our presentations, so we're just going to move into a Q&A. We have a couple of questions, a handful of questions prepared, but if any of our attendees have questions, y'all can feel free to put those in the chat, or you can utilize the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So fantastic work that y'all are doing on your campuses. You both spoke a bit to this question, but are there any partnerships or collaborations that have been significantly important or most important to the success of your programs?
I would say for our situation, Goodwill is now a partner without whom we couldn't operate the way that we do today. We don't have a physical space to host this event. We were really lucky in the early days of ShareFest. A Big Lots had gone out of business in our town, and we used to host it in the abandoned Big Lots. Like, that's the dream, right? To have an empty big box store that you can use to collect and sort your donations. Back in those days, we had like a more swap meet style event because we would let people come in and buy things. We just can't logistically do that anymore. So, Goodwill providing us with the 53-foot trailers that we use as the event's kind of staging area makes them very valuable to us. And then also explaining the value of this event to the city and to our county solid waste has been really helpful. I realized I skipped a slide. It's not a big deal. In my presentation, I had a slide to make sure I called out our appreciation. The city supplies us with two 40-yard roll-off dumpsters, and they cover that cost. So just like Mary was saying, we get a lot of junk. And so Goodwill keeps one person at least at the event, mostly to be the filter, to go, I'm sorry, that's not in good enough condition. We couldn't sell that in our store, therefore we can't accept it. But we have a dumpster right at the end of these 4 storage trailers where you can drop off your items. We found that like brings the temperature down a lot when you're telling people, sorry, we can't accept that. If we can at least provide a place for them to get rid of it, they feel better about it. And then our county solid waste department foots the bill for our e-waste recycling. So they get to count it as like a public drop-off event. We don't limit it to students only. Anyone in the community can drop off for the e-waste, and then they financially support that recycling. It ends up being about $1,500 a year. So, I mean, that's a big contribution for them to be making towards our event.
And I'll quickly jump in and say our smaller partners, our smaller nonprofits are also are the most valuable to us simply because not simply, but because they offer the better storytelling piece. I think we still work with Goodwill. I don't want to knock them. They do take a lot more. They have the capacity to take so much more than our smaller nonprofits. But when we want to say, hey, student A, your goods went to this family in this household, I think that relationship is invaluable. And I would love to keep working with some of our smaller partners if they have the capacity to do that, because our students love hearing the stories of like, oh yeah, this is going to a good cause, as opposed to we don't necessarily know that with a larger partner.
Thank you both. Are there any on campus? Because I know that you're both kind of positioned differently, like within the institution, your roles. Are there any on campus partnerships that you find to be particularly meaningful?
It's going to sound silly because it is small logistically, but it's just like the building of a relationship and what a difference it can make for an event. We host this in an on-campus parking lot. It's for, students to park. And so our parking services have been such kind allies to this event, especially sending out the emails early, telling students half the parking lot is going to be closed starting on this date. They put out all the signs for us. Students have really started to learn. This year we only had to tow 2 cars. And by tow, I literally mean we moved them from this side of the parking lot to the other side of the parking lot, to make room for the semi trailers and the collection and everything. So they understand what this event means to the community, all of the materials that are making it to people in need. And so they've become like big friends to ShareFest because they clear out the parking lot for us. And, that like almost you don't think about it, right? The first day of the event, it's just everything's there. But if they didn't make space for us, we couldn't do this event.
I think our smaller partners, on-campus partners, would be the folks I mentioned earlier, our on-campus pantry. They'll take all of our non-perishable foods, our surplus stores who help take all of our e-waste to help recycle. Those are some of those smaller folks that we also rely on heavily to kind of run smoothly, to say, hey, they're a reliable partner. We know who they are. They'll take the things that they say they'll take.
Yeah. Now, are there any operational challenges that you run into or that you or other folks might underestimate when they're planning these types of programs?
I would say strong backs are an underrated part of any move out donation program. I mentioned that this was our 21st year. That means we have a lot of folks who've been volunteering with ShareFest every year for 21 years. As our volunteering force ages a little bit, we are having to recruit additional people, right? Because you go, oh, we have these two wonderful ladies who've done ShareFest for 21 years. Yeah, but they're not going to load a sectional couch into the Goodwill trailer anymore. So I was very sore for several days after ShareFest this year. But finding folks in the community who feel like they can lift. And making roles for people who feel like they can't. So, this was the first year we had dumpster sitters on campus. If anybody wanted to bring their lawn chair and a sun umbrella and hang out at one of the busiest dumpsters around the residence halls, they were doing what Mary's sign maybe does because perhaps her students are more inclined to read than mine are on their way with their arms full to the dumpster. We found that a very sweet older lady saying, "Put that right here and I will call and they will pick that up. Do not throw that away, it's still good," was very effective. So we work with the volunteers we have, and we've created some new roles that don't require so much physical labor, but you're still going to need the physical labor.
Can I sign up with my lawn chair? I would I would love to just watch as someone say no, but sternly from an elderly person. I would say I use this phrase a lot in my everyday life, but is the juice worth the squeeze? And for me, we've tried to do sorting based on individual needs, and it doesn't work for us. It's very hard for us to say this group is only going to get linens, this group is only going to get clothing. Um, a lot of our partners want that. They will only work with us if we sort for them. And unfortunately, we can't do that simply because it takes a lot of human power to look to say, I'm going to put this in this truck, this in this truck. And our trucks are very spread out. We don't have a singular location where all of our trucks are because they're located outside of every residence hall. So while operationally, it would be much nicer if we had a lot more partners come in and take a lot more of our items. We can't offer a sorted list of things that we can and cannot take. So, unfortunately for us, that juice isn't worth the squeeze just because we don't have the human power to sort as things come in.
Awesome. Thank you both. I do want to we have a couple more questions. But I do want to give Ashley Roberts, who is our ACUHO-I Sustainability Network Chair, is here. If she wants to chime in, I'll give her a minute here. Hey,
Hi, everybody.
hi, Ashley.
Hey. Um, yeah, you want me to just pick one of the questions that I've been looking at? Okay, let's see. Also, thank you guys for being here and presenting and everything. This is really interesting stuff you've got going on. I guess a question that I think might be good to ask. What advice would you offer to campuses looking to strengthen or expand their move out initiatives? Like where's somewhere they should start?
I think for us, we had to start with the needs of the charities who were willing to work with us, and then it like interrogating how much they could help us meet those needs. So we don't let anyone receive goods from us, for instance, if they don't come pick it up, right? Like that's a standard we have. We have people who would love to receive goods from us, but they can't come get it, and we can't offer transportation. So we try to start the conversations as early as possible every year of like putting the call out. Any charity who wants to come to the table and has a need, let's talk. The worst thing that can come from that conversation is like, I'm so sorry, we can't get those materials to you. But even in some instances, I talked about the shelter, which is all the way in Connorsville, Indiana. It's not that close to us. They worked through our local food pantry, and the pantry was willing to take it on. So the pantry took the dressers and delivered them to this homeless shelter. But we are here to facilitate relationships and facilitate conversations and knowing what needs exist and what nonprofits can meet those needs. We just try to facilitate those conversations with the understanding that the worst thing that happens is we have to say no.
This is a tricky question, and I should have known this was coming. But it's a tricky one because move out is so large. It's so large and everyone does it and it's got to happen, right? It's going to through rain and shine, people are going to move out. So how do we do this as sustainably as possible? And I think my answer, although this is a poor answer, is to start small. I think pick your one residence hall, one area that works, that is more sustainably minded students. One that you have developed a relationship with the student staff there. Um, Go the easier route is is what I'm trying to say here because it is a big operation and using this, starting small, getting small successes can propel you to grow, right? Getting people to understand what the moniker is, like whether it's a move out program or or what was it? Something. Sorry, I was had a whole thing about this. Just getting people knowing about your program and then propelling you forward, getting those storytelling pieces out, and then more people I think want to donate. They understand that these goods are still good. They still want to use it. They just can't fit it in their car, right? Sometimes it's as simple as that. And I think starting small while trite is can be the most successful place to start.
That makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that we were talking about at the sustainability meeting the other day was sustainability culture on campus. And so I'm wondering from both of you how your move out programs are like maybe an extension of the sustainability culture that you have on your campus, if you have a sustainability culture, or how the culture that you already have on campus contributes to the success of these programs.
Think that Miami having the first and second year live on requirement means that we just have a little bit more time to teach them what it means, right? Like um they're going to go through two share fests on campus, and we can market to them very heavily when they're on campus. Then they're familiar with it, and when they get the door tag on their off-campus apartment door, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's the thing that happened in the lobby of my residence hall." It's also really helpful that we are sending their peers to their doors with that information, and whether they realize it the morning they show up to be a door knocker or not, those 20 to 40 students accidentally are ambassadors for ShareFest for the rest of the academic year because they've talked to so many people about it already. But we also, um, for whatever reason, and I can't speak to it because I've not tried to peruse the parent Facebook page of other campuses, but our parent Facebook page is popping. And so that is like such a good place for us to reach the parents who might be making the decision when the car gets full of like, well, this is staying and this is going. Just that already exists, and capitalizing on what we know is a channel of communication for the parents has worked really well for us. So I think it's just like knowing your students, knowing your campus, trying to pop your head in wherever they already are.
Yeah, ditto. I think it's just knowing your students, and I think there is a sustainability culture at CSU, and when your family members picking you up and you have 2 hours to move out, that might go all out the window. You just have too much stuff to get through. So just trying to start earlier in the week, getting people as much information earlier, right? As Olivia said, it doesn't seem to be too early to get information out, right? Because people like to plan. They want to know, hey, there's a place to drop this off, because they are thinking about their goods, right? They spent money on it. They want to do something with it other than just throwing it away. And if there's a way to plan for it ahead of time, that's even better. So I think it's just knowing your residents, knowing when is the best time to reach them, and yeah, just spreading the message. The parent Facebook group, I don't think we've tried that yet, but I will put that in our back pocket because it's not only the residents, it's their families as well. So it's just knowing where to hit them at what points in time.
Thank you. Ashley, do you have any additional questions, or do we have any questions from our audience?
I'm not sure that I have any more questions. I think you guys really covered everything, and I'm not seeing anything in the Q&A, but I'll check the chat too. Okay. Yeah, I think y'all have about covered everything, honestly.
Somebody just put something in the chat, but you might have already read this one.
Oh, yep.
It was, are there partnerships or collaborations that happen before move out or even before move in to assist with sustainability efforts and reducing reusing? So there is one example of that I thought of after Mary mentioned it. So here at Miami, we had a lot of challenges for many years with students bringing refrigerators.
Right.
They would bring like full-size apartment refrigerators, which, we set limits for what they can bring. That's not within the parameters. So maybe 10 years ago, maybe even a little longer now, we made the decision as a campus that we provide a standard refrigerator to all of our rooms, just so that they live in the room, and that is just like the bed and the desk, it belongs there. Also, then if something happens to it, we can repair it. It also means that over winter break, we can require that they unplug them and they have to leave the door open so that when we do winter break room checks, we know that they're powered off and then we don't have things like spoiling in the rooms. It solved a lot of problems, not just move out problems, by supplying a standard refrigerator. So that's the only thing we've added. We don't, for instance, provide microwaves, but it has been helpful for us to supply refrigerators. Someone also asked about the difficulty of recycling mattress toppers and if we've had any success with other hard to recycle items or organizations to partner with. We successfully give out between 500 and 1,000 mattress toppers, depending on the year and depending on how many partner groups we can get together. I won't name them because they didn't show up, but we had one partner claim 200 mattress toppers this year and they never showed up to pick them up. So you can't promise that every new nonprofit you bring into the fold is gonna pan out. But we have found that, like I said, like summer camps really like to have them for the bunk beds, especially because they're already like the same size. Homeless shelters really like to have them. And then a lot of homelessness on the street outreach has taken them because they make bedding bundles and people sleep on the mattress toppers on the street. So those are places that we have found that have interest in them. Mattresses are another really hard to recycle item. ShareFest has gone through multiple iterations of how we deal with mattresses. This is the first year we did it the way we did. We put out a call through all of our local food pantries where there was a standardized form and I could sign up. I'm Olivia Heron. Here's my phone number. Here's my email address. I need a full size mattress. So we did it on a first come, first serve basis that the second a full size mattress got dropped off, I was calling that person and saying, we have a full size mattress. Can you come pick it up today? If you can't get it today, I can't promise it'll be here tomorrow because I'm going to call the next person on the list who requested a full size mattress. There were times where the first and second person didn't come that day, so the next person came the next morning and was still able to get a mattress. But so far, that's been our biggest success, because when we have worked with nonprofits who took mattresses, last year we saved something like 40 mattresses. The charity only accepted 10 of them because their standards were so high for the condition of the mattresses. So doing like sort of very direct to community distribution has been successful, but the food pantry managed the list until the day the event started, and they gave me a completed sheet with all of the mattress requests. So like we weren't doing the soliciting, the local pantry was doing the sign up. So that was successful for us with mattresses, but boy, are they are a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, mattress toppers are the bane of my existence as well. Like I mentioned, none of our nonprofits really take them. So in years past, we have recycled them through a hard to recycler down in Denver, but they're about an hour from Fort Collins. So the big elephant in the room here is budget cuts, right? So by the time we pay for their trailer, pay for their labor and time to come up here to Fort Collins, park their truck for a couple of days while we fill it as the students move out. They collect it down there and then they recycle it. The cost just became too much for us to bear for this last fiscal year. So unfortunately, a lot of that went into the dumpster, and that is our largest concern because not only is foam not recyclable, it's voluminous, right? You throw 10 in a dumpster and it looks like it's overflowing already, right? So it becomes a visibility issue because then it seems like we're throwing everything in the dumpster and then now they have to come and empty out the dumpster more frequently. So it's very tricky and I wish I had a better answer for you. We don't deal with mattresses, thank goodness, because all of our mattresses, I'm part of on-campus staff member, so all of our mattresses stay on our beds, hopefully. So we don't have to handle mattresses, but we do get a lot of toppers that we're still trying to figure out how to best deal with year after year.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys and taking the time. Actually, one thing I did want to mention is that we, as the Sustainability Network, are meeting in May, I think, or maybe it was April. We talked about how difficult it is to donate mattress toppers and like what we can do with them. And we really came up with kind of the same stuff you guys have been talking about with like homeless shelters and people living on the street and just kind of like trying to donate it to those people. If that doesn't work, this is not something that I have tried personally, but we did find out that you can donate them to animal shelters. So that way the dogs have beds or the cats or whoever. So that's another thing that if anybody knows anything about, that might be helpful. Anyways, to close out, Mary and Olivia, thank you so much for sharing everything with us. Your insights on the residence hall move out sustainability has been really helpful for us. And we've really appreciated the approaches that you've shared today. Before we close, we just have a few quick announcements. So ACUHO-I will be hosting several webinars throughout the month covering a range of topics for our professional community. So we encourage you to stay connected and share and take advantage of these learning opportunities. In addition, the ACUHO-I Sustainability Network, which is the network that I am currently the chair of, we meet on typically the fourth Wednesday of the month, but during June, we're meeting on the 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And I will make sure that the emails are sent out and the board is updated so everybody has the time and the place and the link and all of that. So be sure to check your email and visit the ACUHO-I website for more details. And on behalf of ACUHO-I and the Sustainability Network, thank you again for joining us today for this important conversation on sustainable move-out practices in residence life. And we look forward to continuing to work with you. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day. And we'll see everybody soon.